Candyman maintained his relevance. There we go.
Yeah, the fun thing was like I watched this movie uh like 5 days ago, and then Michael came over and we watched the original 3 days ago, and
That was Tuesday. That doesn't matter. Anyway.
2 days ago. Time is meaningless. Okay, so whatever. Anyway, so it was really interesting watching that and seeing, from a modern lens, just how well the original Candyman has aged. Just the fact that it is, generally it's a problem within these kinds of movies where the you have a white person wandering through, not and environments full of people of color, and just like basically just not taking them seriously or whatever. And sometimes, in movies, those people get punished. Like, you have the horror classics like Cannibal Holocaust and things like that. But that's what I found interesting in this one, was that it directly addressed the fact that she was privileged and that she was kind of not taking the stories of the Black people in the movie seriously. And then partway through the original, that script is entirely flipped on her, and all of a sudden she's going through that, nobody believing her when she didn't actually do anything. And that, I wouldn't say that it was particularly deep in the way that it used it, but the way that it used it was effective and it was original. Like, you don't see a lot of movies try to do that.
Well, I would say by today's standards, maybe ineffective, but for the early 90s when it came out, incredibly effective and mind blowing and earth shattering, that you would even put a white woman ingenue in that situation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that, I think that's part of why the story carries, because it's one of those few joining times in culturalism where white people and Black people can share the same thing and it's meaningful for the same reason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's which I think is why Candyman stands the test of time. It's originally written by Clive Barker. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then it got formatted for the screen. So Clive Barker knew his shit.
Oh yeah, Clive Barker is very interesting as far as, a mind of horror goes. But yeah, so to see that concept again a couple of days ago and see how well it's aged, whereas other slasher movies, because they were just more fantastical, they kind of stay as like these fun little horror classics, but Candyman was trying to do something more. And while, in the 80s, or, the horror realm, there's a lot of, white people are the majority in a lot of these spaces, right? So a lot of the time, I feel like in horror history in the past, it has not been given its due by a lot of the people that write about horror and, write the history books. But with the resurgence of other voices within horror, I find it really interesting that they said they were going to remake Candyman, and then when we saw that it was in the hands of Jordan Peele, at least partially, a lot of us felt a lot better about that.
Yeah. Well, I initially didn't like the marketing, and they turned that around really quick when they realized they had fucked up. Like the first trailer I ever saw, they were using a redone version of Destiny's Child, "Say My Name," and I'm like, wrong tone.
Yeah,
wrong. Immediately. But as soon as they self-corrected real quick.
I think that they were trying to follow up on the original hype that they got for Us by, reworking. Yeah.
I get it. Like they did. I got 5 on it from the Lunas. I understand.
Yeah. But I think someone in marketing was like, "What if we did it again?" And people were like, "No."
Yeah, but Destiny's Child make like tropalicious songs.
Yeah.
Black tropalicious songs. You know what I'm saying? Like "Say My Name" is about, calling your house and suspecting your boyfriend is with another woman. You know what I mean? Like that ain't got nothing to do with hook murderer. Like,
well,
matter of fact, it's the opposite. Candyman is who he is because he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I personally really enjoyed this. I had a really fucking good time with it. I feel like it nailed the late 80s, early 90s horror tone, like as a throwback while still being distinctly modern. The gore was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because now they can do the things that they were all trying to do in the 80s and 90s, but you frame them well and do them,
Yeah. It had a classic feeling to it.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole movie, I just felt that vibe really strongly, and I really enjoyed how they developed the story. And I think it was really interesting how they made the movie relevant to the original movie while still making it work as a standalone. I think they did a really good job with that. The music was really great. The cinematography was really great. The fucking acting is great.
Oh yeah.
Some of the effects felt like a little too CG, like the movements weren't as smooth as they could have been, but it was like, I would rate that as like an 8 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10. It's really not a big knock against the movie.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, and some of the effect and some of the visual effects that they did in the movie with CG, like some of the effects with mirrors, and the bees, I thought those were really creative and interesting. And I really enjoyed just keeping an eye on like different reflective surfaces throughout the movie.
Yep.
Because there are points where you just see his reflection and you're like, oh shit. Like
yeah.
It's really well constructed horror.
I will say one mark against the film that I have is that like I said, I feel like the content of the film, the subtext, the cinematic language is above contestation. Like there's like, yeah, if people want to not acknowledge that, then don't go see the movie. Don't even bother, because it's happening. It's happening now. It happened in the 70s. It happened in the 90s. It's still happening, right? Like I said, to keep things separate, as a horror movie, though, it keeps breaking its own rules. And for something as 90s as Candyman, I keep on getting confused. Like now, Candyman, it's not bad enough that Candyman is getting solid kills just off the mirror. He's getting proximity kills now.
That's
okay.
That's a fair point.
Like,
Again, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you happen to be with the chick in the mirror that's saying the shit, you gonna die. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
but in the original, that was also a thing. There were people who
really was it? Okay, yeah. I haven't seen those since I was very young.
There's literally one point where the main character realizes that Candyman is not there to kill her, and she intentionally summons him to kill a person who is basically restraining her.
Well, see, I read that a different way. I read that as she thought she was saying it because she would rather die than give up another black person to the police. And it turns out that she would, I think that Candyman refuses to kill her because she'd be the last person to know the story if he killed her.
No, in the current one. I mean, in the original.
Oh, you mean the okay? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm talking about like Candyman lore and all that. Like,
okay, got a little I just sorry. I kind of gave with it.
I know what you're talking about.
No, in the second and third movies, we're just not gonna consider
the farewell to the flesh and all that.
Oh God, it was. I saw the second one because I'd never seen it on Sunday, and it was not good.
Well, that's and it sucks because I remember the second ones being very rich and continuing to build the story and the lore of the actual killer, but the budget just getting less and less. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It is a less competently made movie, and it is more gratuitous in the sense of like an old school horror movie. Yeah. There are more stupid jump scares. There's literally one point where a skeleton hand drops from the ceiling and a loud note plays. Like, it's really goofy ass jump scares. And it feels like I don't know, there was an interesting bit of the lore, but it also did that thing where it actually shows the original murder.
Right.
And you know, I know we've had conversations in the past about, you know, violence against Black people on screen.
Yes.
For kind of a gratuitous horror element, and it had that vibe on a certain level, and it just didn't really. I don't know. It's complicated, but it definitely was not nearly.
Well, yeah, it's because the 80s and 90s presided over the death of the original studio system, right?
Yeah.
People who loved movies people who were artists who were in a position to actually make them, and it got handed over to these corporations where all they see is patterns and formulas, right? So I totally see what you're saying there. Of course, it becomes more gratuitous, because how could you look at a horror movie and actually think it had some sort of societal depth to it? It's like, oh, you guys like it because they're getting killed, so more death.
Yeah,
they just
it felt very much. It felt very much more in line with the problematic nature of a lot of old school horror movies, especially the sequels, where they kind of miss the point and they're like, oh, okay, so you want jump scares and you want to see like people suffering, you want to see violence against women, and like just things like that. It was weird, and the very first original one really avoided that kind of stuff. So anyway, like in terms of how the rules carry over to the new one, I feel like it's there is kind of a looseness to what Candyman does sometimes, but I think that also speaks to him actually being more of a character rather than, just an entity that operates by specific rules.
Well, yeah, and that's also a part of that is part of my youth and immaturity when I first saw the original one. You know what I mean? Those movies were brand new when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
So that's my last experience with them, and so I just kept thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, aren't there like rules to this?
Yeah,
apparently, apparently, if you're just in the same fucking room, like you can get it.
I remember like when I saw this a couple days ago with Michael again, like the original, it was my first time seeing it in like 20 years. And it was a very different experience.
It was my first time watching it ever, so it's fresh.
Yeah, so from who I am now versus the difference in social climate now, it's just completely different eyes to see it through. So that was interesting. But with that in mind, the way that the new Candyman works, I find the concept to be very interesting. Because it kind of builds on what the original was and why there was the whole plot with the baby. And I found that really interesting. I liked that a lot.
Well, yeah, I like I agree. And I think this film kind of puts a bow on the whole experience, is that it just keeps getting powerful, it just keeps getting stronger. It is legion because these issues in our society are not addressed at all.
And you can't page over them, which is the whole behind gentrification, the theme of gentrification.
And so to me in that way, I used to think of Candyman as a Black Freddy. You know what I mean? But it's way deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's way deeper than that.
Now the I particularly liked how it was when Anthony starts, like when he deliberately kind of uses it resentfully against a particular character, and then realizes that it actually worked, and he's like, oh shit, like it hits him, the weight of what he's done. But also the fact that there's clearly a metaphorical rage against exploitation that Candyman embodies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I can justify it in my mind, the rules being broken as Candyman gets stronger. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? After every kill, then it gets a little bit more loose, and I can square that in my brain. I could be like, okay, a room full of girls, 2-3 people at a time. Okay, all right, we've already come this far.
I mean, that's the whole premise of the whole point of Candyman exists, because he's a collective story, basically.
Yeah.
So the idea that story gets spread would also imply that it gets more powerful, like the more widespread it becomes. So that also tracks.
But also because the story itself keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
It's like the souls of the people who experience it get added to the distinctiveness of the entity.
Did you guys stay for the credits?
No, I
did. I watched the whole thing.
No, the credits are surprisingly haunting and poignant. Yes. They basically play out all the different stories of the people, like the stories they tell when he's talking about what Candyman embodies.
Yeah.
Right.
They play out those stories as those little shadow puppet shows.
Yep. And also I could have sworn I saw them sneak in some actual real life instances that have just happened.
Did you? I felt like maybe.
Yeah,
I
like the kid riding his bike. You know, there was a kid riding his bike that had a hook on his hand.
Yeah, no, the one who got like the kids in town pointed at him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I couldn't help but think of Emmett Till during those sequences.
Well, Emmett Till, but like Tamir Rice.
Yeah,
like
that
there's tons of kids that have happened to in the past 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So God, there's a lot to this movie, and I like that it was in the hands of people as capable as Jordan Peele and what's this guy's name? Something Nick DaCosta or something.
I think it's like
something like that. I think they produced Get Out together too.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure it's like Nino DaCosta.
Yeah. I know they wrote it together, and then DaCosta was the one that directed it. So it's really good to see that writing in the stylistic hands of another director. It's almost like when you see From Dusk Till Dawn, and it's partially a Tarantino script, but Rodriguez is directing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's got a little bit of a different spin on it, but the flavor is there.
Effect in the film.
Yeah,
just in the way that it's shot, the way that.
Well, yeah. Like he clearly, like he wrote the film, but he clearly made the film. Like, yeah. Like all the director and the producers did was just like, you see this on the page, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is definitely a passion project. Like I love. You can feel how much they care and care about this movie and believe in it. That really comes through. And I've seen really mixed reviews. Of course, but
of course, because we still can't deal with it. We can't deal with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, for me, watching this, knowing the context, knowing the history, knowing the original, I couldn't think of a way I would have changed anything. Like, I really love everything about this movie. I love the way it progresses. I love the body horror in there. I did not expect the level of body horror that I got. Right. There was some like Cronenberg-esque shit in there. And I don't know. I think it was a really smart, well done movie.
No, for sure. And the culturalism, the body horror aspect, it feeds right into the culturalism. You know what I mean? Unless you're staring and pointing at the black man that has all the injuries and the disfiguration, you walk by him and nobody cares. You don't care about his pain. You don't care what's going on with him. So it's perfectly plausible that this dude can start having open sores on his body walking around and everybody still ignore him.
Don't you think there's also something to be said about the fact that, him and his wife are black people living a life of privilege in essentially a gentrified neighborhood,
right? Well, yeah, they get
past coming back to haunt them.
Yeah, they get to do that because it's built on the bones of where their families used to be, right? So now they stuck around long enough to become professionals, and they get to kind of have a piece, right? But it's always just a piece, right? It's not the whole thing.
Yeah, they are like even the wife is constantly at the mercy of these hoity-toity fucking art critics and gallery owners from New York and stuff. She's never really controlling her own thing. And even when she's taken to that one gallery and that one lady's talking to her about her story, she's still living in the shadow of her father. They're still more interested in other things around her rather than just her. And she's still suffering that bit of identity crisis and having to play along with it.
Well, and the beautiful part is that they're standing in front of a sign with white statues that says,
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Clearly you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those things, like, correct me if I'm
wrong.
Subtlety
there.
But the one thing that I did think was interesting about the artistic aspect behind it is it did feel like Black artists appropriating Black suffering for largely white people, and that's the underlying message as well. That again, there's messages for everybody in this film, predominantly for the people outside of the culture, but there's still messages in here for us. Stuff that we need to hear, stuff that we need to talk about, stuff that we need to see. Yes, which is actually summarily why I have a hard time watching Jordan Peele movies because it is Black pain in front of my eyes over and over again.
and it's a part of my everyday life. And that part of the message is not for me. You know what I mean? But to support it, but to support the message being told, I have to subject myself to it. And that is a catch-22 that Black people will never escape in this country. It's that in order for people to understand, we have to tell them and tell them and tell them.
Well,
and show them and tell them and show them and tell them. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
At the same time, I think that there's something to be said about it being done well.
Yeah.
Versus, antebellum.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. No. Perfect point. Perfect point. Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's wrong to do it. I'm just saying that it's like the movie. It's like bandaging this thing up that clearly is not getting better.
Yeah.
It's hard to sit through. It's hard to sit through, definitely. But at least it's not, just flat out gratuitous.
There's a point. There's a rhyme and a reason for everything that's being done. It's not cruelty for its own sake.
Yeah, it is actually in service of a larger message. And I appreciate that this. Oh, sorry, Michael.
Well, like that's because I've been thinking a lot about Candyman. Because, like I said, you and I just watched the first one a couple days ago, and kind of leading to this one, I've been kind of giving it a lot of thought, and it is very interesting. Like, to me, compared to a lot of other slasher horror movies around that time, what I appreciate about Candyman is the fact that it had a very deliberate point and it saw it through to the end, as opposed to a lot of like slasher thrillers of that time, which I feel like got bogged down by the violence and the identity of the killer and all that kind of stuff. But Candyman had a very specific identity and knew what it wanted to do with that identity. And I feel like the sequel very much carries that same element over and expands on it. Like in many ways you've already discussed, both visually and artistically. But it understands that it does, like, Candyman has a lot on its mind, both of them, and it's not afraid to delve into those topics. I have a huge amount of respect for that. Now, I have been hearing a growing criticism about stories like this in general, in terms of kind of like you're talking about, Ron, in terms of just highlighting Black suffering and nothing else, as the dominant form of storytelling being told in these. Oh, did I freeze on you guys?
Yeah. Well, there's. Yeah, and the precedent has been set by creating high art out of Black suffering from the beginning of Black cinema. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was the only way that Black people could get anything made. I mean, the Color Purple is a perfect example, and that was directed by Steven Spielberg, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But up until that point, it's probably the most accurate period Black piece of like ever up to that point, and but it's like it is like other cultures understand Black Americans through suffering, and we just have to add to that. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it has to stop being the go-to weapon that we use to start these conversations.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
And so, like,
but if it's artfully done, if it's craftfully done, then it's craftfully done.
Yeah, and I think that's always kind of the catch-22 movies like these, is the fact that they are really artistically done and they are really smart in how they present these topics, and the writing behind them is really sharp and really engaging, and it deals these topics in very complex, nuanced ways. On the other side of the spectrum is also like, okay, but there's also still another movie that's highlighting this over other aspects of the Black community. And I'm only going off what I've heard, but I could, like, just hearing that and looking at the movies we've talked about these kind of topics before, is like it is kind of hard not to see that pattern.
Well, yeah, and one of the main reasons why it's getting talked about, and then I'll shut up after this, is one of the main reasons it's getting talked about is because now that we have finally kind of broken the ceiling on artistic design with Black storytelling, and we can get stories out, it's kind of a collective consciousness of Black artists looking at each other and be like, yeah, we got to stop doing this.
Yeah.
We're not, I don't think it's we're gathering each other and blaming Hollywood for it. I think it's us looking back at ourselves and being like, this has probably run its course. We probably need to start telling other there, because there's millions, of stories we could tell without that.
Yeah. All that being said, And again, like everything you said is completely right. So yeah, that's what makes it hard for me to talk about movies like this and from that angle. Because on one hand, I don't want to just talk about movies that just highlight Black suffering, but on the other hand, I do want to highlight.
Please do because the Black suffering part is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
That's what I was about to say, is that there's always been, there's a very similar conversation to be had about any movie that's based on very real trauma that people go through. I feel like there are very similar parallel discussions going on when it comes to, for example, the kind of suffering that women go through, whether in domestic abuse or through sexual violence, and the purported value of putting that stuff on screen and how to handle topics like that. And in the end, what it comes down to is that putting things like this on screen it's traumatizing to the kind of people that have gone through it in real life. But there is an element of it that makes this stuff actually hit for people who have no experience with it.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to a partner of mine about the scene in Candyman 2 where they reenact the original murder, and I told her, like, yeah, I don't really like, I'm not down with that. And she said, well, the thing about it is I remember as a kid seeing that and it really sticking with me because it really hit home just how horrible it was.
Right.
And that's kind of just this fucked up paradox. So
yeah, the shadow puppets in this film were actually very effective in retelling that story.
Yeah,
without having to do it. I actually appreciated that they didn't redo it.
Yeah, no, I did appreciate how this movie kind of held that line, and how I correct me if I'm wrong because it's been a few days, but you guys just saw it. Candyman doesn't kill any Black people in this movie.
I don't think so.
Not that I can remember.
Yeah, not that I remember. Matter of fact, I think they narrowly skirted. They narrowly skirted it. And the first Black kill would have been the end, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
God, what was it?
I mean, unless you count the way he consumes his host, right?
I suppose. Yeah.
In a very literal sense, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see we're running low on time. Are we gonna stop and hop back in, or do we
probably stop and hop back in so we can talk for a few more minutes?
Okay,
for sure. Just so you guys know, I probably can go about an hour with this, and then I gotta prepare for some other stuff. I'm back in LA, so the schedule has changed significantly.
Fair enough, man. It's already like 12:30, so I'm expecting what you can give.
I wanted a side question. I don't really want to get into a conversation about it. I just want a very basic thing because I want to stay focused on this obviously better movie. But just did you happen to see Them? I
did not yet.
Okay.
People have been telling me to watch it. I've not seen it.
From what I've heard, you should not.
Okay.
That's the Amazon.
Well, I shouldn't have watched Annabellum either, but I did that.
Yeah, but it's apparently way more gratuitous and intense with its violence.
Okay.
Specifically against Black people.
But yeah, I've noticed that as of late, I have been just having this conversation with myself where I see it and I'm like, these are probably Black filmmakers and producers. I need to support this, and then being like, nope, I can't do it. Just not going to do it.
No, I would say very much Them is not for you. Them is not for Black people. Them sounds like it was made specifically for white people to be horrified. And it has some decent messages at the end, I guess, when the character moments come full circle. But for people who have any kind of a personal connection to that kind of pain, I wouldn't say that it's worth it on that level. So, but again, that comes back around to what we were talking about with this, who are these for? Who do they actually benefit?
Yeah.
How do we support them if we can't, sit through the actual thing ourselves?
We do, and I'm not surprised. We do this with everything with Black culture as a country. We try to magnify the parts that we can strip and resell, and we use that to color it as this is everything you need to know, right? The minstrel show is alive and well in that regard, where it's like Yeah, it's like hip hop grew from a place of cultural violence and poverty. So what do? We sign the rappers on the record label that talk about, one extreme to the next, and we magnify it. And then this is hip hop, Yeah, that's what we do. We do it to everything.
Or was it?
It's like it's like kind of movie highlights too. It's like we, and by we I mean white people. I'll speak for white people.
you will speak for them,
Michael.
The white delegation.
Michael,
as the white delegate here, I will speak
on white person.
White people. But no, there's a very heavy theme on this, and it also goes back to the Candyman stories too, because the whole conceit is that there are multiple Candymen, and everyone have a very similar story of everyone being like wrongly murdered by white people in some horrendous fashion or another. But all it boils down to the same basic thing of not just repeating history, but trying to wash it away, like causing the problem, then trying to wash away the problem, and then the problem never existed. But all the scars and all the pain, everything underneath is still just right there. We just can't see it.
But yeah, Michael, like aloof white people, they think they slick, bro. They think they're slick. Okay, you say this has been going on literally since the beginning of this country.
Yep.
Okay, and when it was going on in the middle of that time, they said no, it's not happening. And now when we have the documents, it's but that was a long time ago. So it's the double diss.
Well, we have the video.
You know what I mean?
Well, now it's
video now, and they still deny that.
Yeah, now it's the video. Yeah, now it's the video, and it's like, you're right.
Well, now it
like, next topic.
Well, I don't like your tone. You're being too mean about it, sir.
Yeah, like they think they slick. They think they slick.
Yeah.
We're not nearly as smart as we think we are. I will say on behalf of white people, specifically
as our resident white. But yeah, in any case, this is a good movie. This is a real good movie.
Yeah,
it works on a bunch of layers. Like
it's a great movie. It's craftily and artistically done.
But in terms of how it handles those topics and that subject matter, it still inherently has those roots that are difficult to get away from, but I feel like it handled it in a much more skillful and tasteful way than most things do. I think this is about as well as you can handle that kind of stuff.
And it's very subtle.
There's a lot of stuff that could have been handled a lot more poorly in the hands of less capable and less intelligent filmmakers. And what these guys did, like, fucking really solid. I really appreciated it. I think again, I can't think of a way that they could have done this better. There's nothing I would really.
Neither can I. There's a million ways they could have messed it up, but like it's when I see the ending, I'm like, yeah, this is how you do it.
That last couple of minutes was fucking amazing.
Yeah,
I loved that.
I think this is one of those rare sequel reboots that actually understands the original and what it's trying to do, and it knows how to expand on it, as opposed to most other ones where like, we're just gonna throw the monster in here. It's gonna be good to do the killing things, and like it just loses all the nuance.
Well, to me, to me, this is more evolved than a reboot. It's it's kind of like the way it's kind of like the way Rod Serling makes an anthology out of the Twilight Zone, even though none of the stories match. You know what I'm saying? It's like Rod Serling is the anthology, not the show. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I mean. Like Candyman is, that's what I feel like.
All right, let's pause there for a bit because we have less than 1 minute left in this particular recording. So we're gonna take a brief commercial break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. I realized something. Ron, when you brought up the Destiny's Child thing with Say My Name, I realized what I was thinking of. Very much reminds me of the same, like, missing the point of the original song versus what you're putting it in, as when fucking like when Zack Snyder put zombie at the end of fucking Army.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
I haven't seen that film, but I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
anyway. Yeah, but same weird tone deafness where it's like, yeah.
That could evolve into
Candyman's name. So what if we have the song "Say My Name"? Like the movie has zombies in it. What if we put the song "Zombie" in the movie?
That was it. But yeah, that "Say My Name" wasn't cute. When I heard it, I was like, bro, who okay?
Remember when we had Hallelujah to Owl Night?
Anyway,
Night Owl banging.
So yeah, let's
no one else remembers Zack Snyder's epic.
Hey, he loves that song. Okay. He loves that song. He has a lot of love in his heart for Hallelujah, and he just wants to put it everywhere. Everywhere. That's why he put it over the trailer of the Justice League.
This mark my words, Michael. The Snyderverse is coming back, bro. You're gonna get more.
The whole AT&T thing tanked.
You're gonna get you don't understand. It all rests on Black Adam. Once Black Adam tanks, it's all coming back, bro.
We'll see. I don't know.
You think Black Adam's not going to do well?
So okay. So I've said this. I think I said this when we were doing the Justice League review.
Yeah, I know you're predicting for that.
Yeah.
One.
So I put my production hat on, and I'm thinking, okay, Black Adam has a potential to be actually really great. I think Dwayne Johnson is perfect for that role. I think he'll bring the intensity that it needs for the character. But you're placing him in a universe where you've already made a family sitcom out of Shazam. You know what I mean? The two are at odds with each other. And eventually when they clash, because they're mortal enemies, it's going to be uneven and it's going to flop. So
I don't know about that. I disagree with that.
They're gonna. I'm just telling you. There's no way you can have Zachary Levi crack jokes with Dwayne Johnson trying to beat him up. It's just not gonna work.
That's always been their dynamic.
No, but I'm saying they haven't been in the same room together, paid to do that to each other. Never.
But my point is
it's always the first time.
Reason for the dynamic works in the book is because he's an active child going against a literal god who's been around for centuries, and he's just way out of his league. Hey, that's not
going to translate on film, buddy. Not going to translate on film.
Michael
I'm telling you,
dude. I don't know that like the Shazam movie had a talking caterpillar, and it kind of worked. I'm not down.
I'm telling you, Dwayne Johnson was turned into a CG scorpion, and people still took him seriously. You don't understand.
You mean they took Dwayne Johnson seriously? They didn't take the Scorpion seriously.
We did not.
It's not gonna work. But what I'm saying is, it looked so ridiculous, and people still.
Oh yeah, it was bad. I mean, okay. I love my returns.
And I'm not excluding myself. I love that movie. Okay, I love that movie. I love that movie, and I love the spinoff, the first Scorpion King movie. I love it too.
Actually, yeah.
I love both of them. So
anyway.
I'm just saying the flames will fan off on those two franchises, and they're gonna be grasping at straws. I'm telling you, Snyder's coming back.
I'm gonna root for the underdog here.
Snyder's coming back.
We'll see.
We're recording.
We are recording. So we got all of that.
We are. Yeah, you could save that. Just save that as the evidence when I'm right.
Oh yeah.
Just put it as the epilogue. Like we'll just put this as an unlisted video on the channel.
Like I'm gonna let the audience wonder what the hell we were talking about before I pressed record.
Yeah, no. Just cut it out. But when the news shows up on the Hollywood Reporter, just take a snap and then put this video and then put the time code on.
I'm not gonna have to remind me till the day I fucking die, like you did the last time.
Oh man.
But anyway, back to Candyman.
All right. So, do we want to go into spoiler territory and just,
we can at this point.
Just like, I mean, clearly we love this movie. Everyone, like, this is as good as it could be. So, spoilers, spoiler alert. If you don't like spoilers, turn back because there's spoilers coming.
After the whole Snyder talk there.
That's a spoiler too, by the way.
So I just want to I had to go off and take care of something personal tonight, so I couldn't go and see it in theaters with Michael. But I just want to know, Michael, the one point in the movie I wanted to see your face.
What's that?
Was when God, what's her name? Anthony's wife. Do you remember her name?
No. You know what? They rarely ever say her name at all.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Anyway, when she's going through the laundromat and looking around, that moment she opens the basement door and just stands there and just goes, nope.
Yeah, it's the traditional horror shot where it's like the stairs and the door open, and she's like, nope.
So that was Rihanna.
But she still gets caught up in it anyway. So
she gets caught. But I love the fact that that whole horror trope of like, oh, I heard a scary noise, I'm gonna go outside and look for it. Like right when we've had 5 fucking murders on my street over the past week. Like, yeah, let's go check this out. But she has the sense to just be like, and it's funny because when I was watching it in theaters, when she opened the door and had that shot, I out loud said nope, and then she said nope, and I was like, yes. Thank you.
I mean, to be fair, it's like probably like some of the smarter people in the movie where like everyone's going like, I am absolutely not saying Candyman in front of that goddamn mirror. I don't believe it. But I'm
okay. I did something on Instagram for that, by the way. Like there was the news headline came up that to see the final trailer of Candyman, you have to stand in front of your computer into your microphone and say Candyman 5 times. I put up a meme that said, y'all let me know how that goes. And then a picture of Magic Johnson going, no, bro, yeah, I don't play with stuff like no. We don't play.
I think my favorite one was when like they have all the teenage girls in front of the mirror and they're all saying it, and then like the one girl at the far end, like after they say it the 3rd time and the window flies open, she's like, "Fuck no," and just leaves.
Yep. And notice that was the Asian chick.
Yep. No, I was like the one.
That was the Asian chick. Girl. She's like, and I was thinking to myself, top of her class. Fortune 500 CEO, right there.
I mean, it also just kind of fueled the theme in the first movie of white people just having no sense of self-preservation.
They're going to interview her about that moment when she's 40.
She's like, I absolutely believe in the fucking Candyman. Are you kidding me?
She's like, I absolutely believe in fucking Candyman. It happened. That's the best decision I ever made in my life.
That bathroom scene was where one of my favorite Candyman reflections showed up, because when they before they all leave, or before they all try to leave, before any of them gets killed, it kind of shows a shot where the stalls are blocking the mirror. And you can kind of see them standing in front of it, but you can see the paper towel dispenser, and it's not a clear reflection. Like, it's still distorted the way that shit is when it's in like dirty, weird metal like that. But it's definitely fucking Candyman's reflection in the paper towel dispenser. And I just really love that detail. That made me so happy.
There's a lot of clever
the CG artists probably had a field day with those composites. They were probably loving them.
They
probably got the pictures up on their wall in their office, like of all the times he's there and nobody sees him.
And then the one I like the one that was like towards the very beginning when like Anthony's staring in the mirror in the bathroom, and then he closes the door and he turns his head, but his reflection doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm also a sucker for those kind of visual tricks.
Well, and the mirror, the long mirror exercise that the 2 actors did too. I love that.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Was that actually 2 actors? I felt like that was a CG like imposed on top of his reflection.
See, I'm pretty confident that was 2 actors. That was yeah.
See, well,
they mirrored each other.
I mean, Ron, you know what that means, right? We got to buy it when it comes out, and we got to watch the special features, and we got to.
I mean, of course,
yeah,
of course.
We gotta see it.
Again, I know I'm going to buy it. I know I'm going to support it, just like I support all Black filmmakers. But am I going to watch it again? Probably not.
Just the special features, right? God, there's so many movies that I buy just to support and then never watch them again, because it's like I could rent it for $4, but you don't understand. I need to support. Like, come on, it's like I don't have a problem with the idea. Some of my friends still do piracy and stuff, and I'm like, all right. And I'm okay if they do it to like some random massive Disney movie. I don't give a shit. They have all the money in the world, but like, don't do it to little indie shows or movies that are trying to come up, man. Like,
yeah,
that's where I will. I feel like that's my Kickstarter. Like, I'm just gonna throw $20
to me, to me, it's like to me, it's like if you're going to download a film that somebody could use the money, you just got to mirror. If you're downloading it for convenience and you plan on supporting it, then you got to do both. You have to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there are some movies where back in the day I downloaded them illegally, but I had already seen the movie like 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, fuck your feelings. I don't really care.
when I was in high school, I wanted to do music production stuff, but I didn't have the money to afford like the good shit. Like the right software was like $1,200.
Right.
So of course I pirated it.
Yeah, the prosumer market was crazy back then.
Yeah, and then when I got old enough to actually have a job and save up and buy this stuff, I bought it, and I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't pirated it when I didn't have access.
Right, and it's because you built that relationship with the program and got to love its features illegally.
Exactly. So
roundabout way to go about it, but whatever gets the job done.
Interesting how that works, right?
I also feel like that's how Photoshop goes so big. You remember how big Photoshop piracy was back in the day? Mm-hmm. But yeah, in any case, in terms of movies, like. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to support this movie. This is probably going to be one of those movies that I buy digital and then buy on Blu-ray separately, just to like double dip for them.
Yep.
I plan to have 20 copies of Godzilla vs. Kong next to my desk.
Yeah, like just like favorite little moments of the horror gimmicks, like that hallway mirror thing was really great.
Yeah,
I really loved. I love that one little touch where he notices the bee is on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah,
that one part where basically the points where Candyman literally floats around with the head
in the original, didn't he?
That was good. Huh?
He did that in the original, right?
No, he didn't float around like that.
Did he? I could have sworn he did.
He floated a couple times, but not specifically like that.
Gotcha.
But the head of bees thing was really cool. But what was it? The other thing, when it does the zoom out from the journalist's apartment building, and it kind of has like that old school voyeur feeling,
like rear window
apartments, and you think that like it's just giving you a cool shot of how isolated she is, but then you see the kill from far away, and so you're just get dragged across her fucking apartment.
And that's what I was saying. Cool. Like it definitely had the 90s feel. It's something I know that 90s directors wanted to do so bad, but just could not even conceive of how to get it done. Mm-hmm. We would even have the tools now. You know, that's what I was referring to earlier.
And
that's good stuff.
Flashbacks of Lady in the Window.
That one, how about that one underground tunnel scene? That was surprisingly uncomfortable.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, that was really
awesome. With the flashlights and stuff. Yeah.
It actually reminded me, like in a weird way, it reminded me of the subway scene in The Wiz. You guys ever seen that?
Oh my god,
it's been a long time.
There's this like this very creepy cultural kind of scary moment in the middle of The Wiz where they're on a subway and they're like people from Oz, but they're on roller skates and they have like really weird faces and stuff. That's what it reminded me of.
Wow.
It was meant to be like a very culturally scary moment in that film, and I felt like it kind of mirrors that in that way.
Why am I thinking of Return to Oz right now? That is
not that.
Probably because of the flying monkeys in that one.
I'm talking about The Wiz with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I know which one it is. For some reason, I'm thinking of the Wheelers from Return of Oz. Those really creepy things that like had with Ryan on 4 roller skates. It's a really creepy film. But anyway, that's besides the point.
No, it was I really liked how there was the theme of the movie where Anthony basically gets so detached from the actual plight of Black people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like that, the fact that they have that giant painting that he did of like the noose as the necktie on his wall, as though, you know, that's like, oh, this is cool, this is visionary pop art, and the people mainly saying that are white people. And then when he comes back to it, even the inspiration that he gets to look into Candyman, that obsession, it all centers once again around kind of his weird voyeurism of violence against Black people and the poor, and, you know, the kind of struggles that people like that go through. And in a weird way, this was reconnecting him to the reality of those things, the same way that in the original it was trying to give, a white lady who had no connection to anything, like an understanding of what that stuff was like.
Mm-hmm. Well, because like the problem makes it clear
that script, but it was interesting.
I mean, the script makes it clear that he's very deliberately separated from all of that.
Well, yeah, his mother played a part in that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But do you think that it also was trying to say that, by separating so completely from that, they like just become so detached that they can't understand it anymore?
Well, that's like I said before, that's Black art makers criticizing themselves.
Yeah,
they're like, we got to stop doing this.
Yeah, and I think it goes around.
You know what I'm saying? Like
appropriate,
and it's in a very meta way.
Yeah.
So wait, so you're saying like it could also be potentially serving like as a meta self-awareness sort of commentary?
Yeah,
that's interesting. I like that.
Like we're talking about Black men doing it in the film, but we're doing it in the film, and like we know we're doing it in the film.
Yeah, and it's like fucking adaptation, but with Black horror.
And that's actually very interesting when you look at it from a meta context. You can also make the argument that the idea of having multiple Candymen with very similar backgrounds is also kind of similarly saying like, hey, we need to stop telling the same story of Black suffering over and over and over again.
Yeah. Oh man, just that ending, dude. That last few minutes, that last fucking murder spree against the cops, like the gore.
There was a catharsis there. Yeah,
was so good, and that final kill when they finally unveiled Tony Todd's face.
Yeah.
Dude, I literally shouted yes in the theater and clapped, and like no one else around did, and I'm like, fuck you guys. Like, come on.
I'm just glad. Yeah,
history.
No, you're right though. I'm just glad that they made him a part of it. He's one of the largest reasons for its success.
Mm-hmm.
Dude had a killer voice.
Great.
But also so very lovingly and determined to tell the story of the despicable end of Black people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to. It's for Black people. It's not something we could just put on the camera and walk away from.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Todd has had to carry that his whole life.
Yeah,
because the film became a success, but also because he deigned to tell the story in the first place. It's a part of him. He can't walk away from it. You know what I mean? Every time a little Black kid got murdered, Tony Todd must have been at his TV like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like he's literally the conduit with which these stories get to exist now, because they're in the news for 2-3 weeks and then they disappear.
Yeah. Nobody
knows these kids' names. Nobody knows these men's names anymore, except the people that love them. And then when they're gone, they're gone. You know, that's what I mean by that. Like whenever Black people decide to tell these stories, they decide to make themselves a living newspaper, a living conduit for the souls of these people, for true and authentic stories to be told. It's no small task. It's and like again, we don't ever ask when Tony Todd's around, we don't ever ask like, well, where the fuck's he been? I know where he's been.
Yeah.
He's been dealing with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
God, I can't even imagine. Just the weight of that has to be monumental.
It is. Yeah. Like chosen to carry that burden basically because it's a hit for the rest of your life,
Well, I do find it interesting that, it's understandable that, the original movie was written and directed by a white man, and the original story though was written by, a white man, but a gay man. So he had some kind of insight into the context of discrimination and suffering.
Absolutely. If you're gay, if you're a woman, you know what it's like to be Black. You do.
There was something about the fact that his voice was such a prominent voice in horror back then. I forget even when it was that he came out as gay, but I remember for a while it wasn't a well-known thing. So it was really interesting to have that retrospective perspective on that, and to see that translated. I'm really glad that the original story, even though it was adapted and directed by a white man for the screen, was done so well.
You can make the argument that it probably might have only been made because it was a white man in Hollywood.
No, that's
well, yeah, that's like I said, either you go in and fix it yourself, you learn how to fix it yourself, or you pay somebody to fix it.
No, but that's what I was saying. Like, it's understandable that a white man was the guy who was able to be in charge of it, but the fact that he did such a good job with it as well.
Yeah.
Like, you could have had that dude make, you know, Candyman 2 instead, or Candyman 3. But instead he made the first Candyman. And that's, as a work of art, it stands on its own. And I'm really glad that ended up being that. It's funny because if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, as I was looking at them, like, original Candyman has like a 76%, Candyman 2, 26%, third Candyman, 9%. There's a market downturn in quality. So I don't know. But the fact that, you know, I have to wonder how much of that was done in collaboration with the Black people who were in the movie and with Tony Todd, and how much
it would have to be to a certain extent. I feel like it would have to be to a certain extent.
I feel like it too, and I wonder how much of a role they had and how much they just didn't put their name as co-writers because of how politically that would work back then. But I'm really interested to know how that original movie ended up being as faithful as it was.
Yeah. So, yeah.
In any case, I just thought that was a cool touch, or a cool part of that story, because we know how things were back then.
That were.
Secretly,
more so than now.
Secretly, people of color power Hollywood. You know what I mean? They just doesn't get talked about. You know, so I'm sure there are tons of great relationships that are never discussed or never billed as, you know, creative teams. You know, tons of people who have contributed to the success of films that we'll never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think what I've always found interesting about some of the stuff you and I work on. So the video series we've done, like the Superman Smash the Clan one, is easily the most controversial one we've ever done up to this point.
I think it's Mouse, but
I mean, like public backlash is more on the Superman Smash the Clan one versus the Mouse one. Those are like the most.
I feel like there are more people these days. I don't really know, but I do feel like there are more people that will openly support the Klan in America rather than support like flat out Nazis and Hitler.
You'd be surprised.
See, you would think so, right?
I wouldn't be. I told you, like, these days, I don't know so much, but, you know,
I've gotten people that say you're un-American for not supporting the internment camps. Those are comments I've actually gotten.
No, I know that shit's that's just normal Klan talk, though. So.
Yeah. But anyway, my point with this is because I was wondering when we first did the Mouse one in particular, I was really terrified. I was going to get a massive backlash and doxed or anything like that. And then that didn't happen. It didn't happen against Superman Smash the Clan video. And I realized probably the reason why it didn't happen is because it's being told by me, a white man. Because if it was told like through a woman or any person of color, they would have been eviscerated. But because I'm white, I get a lot of comments. I go like, hey, don't hate on yourself because you're white. You're one of us. Those kind of comments. And it doesn't happen so much anymore, but it used to happen a lot.
I think they've learned not to fuck with you.
You would think. I get some fucking sociopaths. That's a conversation.
Yeah, he got Twitter fodder for days, bro. I'm loving it.
There's less of them.
I'm loving it.
It's not as bad as it used to be. But my point is, though, it's because I wonder, like, just how much that affects, not just back in the 90s or 80s, but like how much it still affects creators and artists today. Like, if you're Black or person of color, you're expected to make art that fits a very particular window to make white people feel comfortable. But if you fall outside that territory, you actually criticize white people or American culture in any significant way, then you get a massive backlash. At least that's the way I personally see it. I would be curious your guys' thoughts on that.
I mean, it all sounds spot on. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we're at the point in the review where I'm just gonna start repeating myself.
Fair enough.
let's see. Anything else Candyman related that we want to touch on? I just wanted to talk about like the cool moments that we thought were interesting.
I think it's all really I had to say, like mostly because that's really the last point I really that's interesting to me because it is about Black art and it is about Black media and it is about how Black art is interpreted by the people who would absorb it, which is largely white people.
You know, as far as visually, it doesn't do anything that I've not seen before, but you know, the subtext and the weight it carries just carries the day. It finishes the job. And like now, keep in mind the stuff that I've seen them do that has been done before was done very sloppily in other ways, but pristine in this way. Exactly. You know, but
I don't mind if you rip shit off, but do it well.
Yeah, story carries the day. The meaning behind the story carries the day here. To me, it's the most important thing. It's just a well-made movie that didn't shoot itself in the foot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do have one super minor criticism. I'm curious your guys' input on because I don't know if I'm wrong here.
Probably racist, so yeah, you are.
No. Well, hold on. It might be. I don't know.
But these are the times to say these things and have a genuine conversation.
That's why
I show up for these things. It's ask a Black dude after you see the Black thing.
I am learning to accept that at some point I will say or do something racist, intentional or otherwise. Exactly. And I'm learning to treat those movies as educational as opposed to saying that I, as a person, am racist.
Exactly.
That is a very important statement.
It's about the things you do. I don't think anybody that knows you or cares about you would think that you are a racist.
Yeah,
but that thing that you do here or this thing that you say here, it
can be racist. Yeah.
No, that's the like I think that's a really important thing that a lot of white people don't realize.
Yeah.
You're gonna do some racist shit. Yep. That's okay. That doesn't make you a racist.
Exactly.
How you handle that situation when you are informed of how you fucked up, though, that could potentially make
and also insulting us to try to save face doesn't work because we can tell the difference.
Yeah.
I can tell when you did something and you didn't mean to. I'm not a fool.
Yeah.
You know, like.
But it's when somebody points it out, and then everyone gets like that really defensive.
Yeah, but you get defensive, then it's really gonna be something.
You know? Yeah, because racism assumes that like good and bad binary. You're either like not racist at all, you're all the racist. There's no in between, which also means no room to learn, there's no room to grow.
As we're learning with gender, the binary is really misleading.
Absolutely, so, yeah. But anyway, my one criticism. I've got 10 minutes left, so we can wrap this up. Did you guys think the gay character bordered on homophobic a little bit?
I think so. Definitely Black gay trope. I'm just happy that a Black person did it this time.
Okay, that's fair.
At the same time,
you know what I'm saying?
I don't know that person particularly, that actor, but I will definitely say I have known people who are actually like that. So while it is a trope, I don't feel like it was a disrespectful trope.
Yeah,
the humor from it was based on his sassiness and the jokes that he made. When he called Anthony a Basquiat motherfucker, I was like, that's a good line to drop in this movie. But yeah, the butt of the joke was never that he was gay. The butt of the joke was that he was fucking like he had an attitude. He crossed the line a bunch. Like, that was just who he was, but he was also really fiercely defensive of his sister, and like, was kind of fearless. Like, I love that.
Well, and also he's a marker for the period. He's a marker for the time about how far we've come in Cabrini Green. Mm-hmm. That we have this upper class Black man who sells the places that they all live in now, you know, and can swig wine and be like, oh, this is trash. You know what I mean? Like, that's that. I think that's his real function there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's another thing that Black people need to see is our own progress.
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Okay.
So that we don't constantly, so we're not constantly stuck in the movies and the projects shooting each other.
Also,
you know,
thank you for not fucking just murdering the gay couple.
Yeah, I do
or even
appreciate
just
that.
one of them.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that
yeah.
It was good that didn't happen too. Like there's a lot of choices with who to murder in this movie that I've found really deliberate and I appreciated them.
Just kill all the whiteys. There's plenty of us. We'll be fine.
Yeah, you know.
I hope no one takes that.
That reminds me of Eddie Murphy on SNL when he kind of spoofed Bob Marley. He was like, "Kill the white people." Bro, something about when he does that shit just makes me die laughing. Like he says kill the white people, but white people buy my album first. and like,
God, old
that shit
Murphy
makes me
great.
When I see him do that shit makes me cry, bro. That shit.
Oh man, I gotta look that up. One thing, given that how do we feel about the twist, the way that they treated that? I like how they incorporated the original movie, because if you've seen the original movie recently, I almost regretted showing it to Michael when we watched it. I'm like, oh shit, it even says their names. Like when they introduced
it's okay, I completely forgot by the time I watched the sequel. So
good. so like the way that reveal is treated, I thought it was really interesting. And I thought it was structured well. Like they did that well. The way that they called back to the original movie.
I mean, the way they did throughout the movie, I thought was very clever. Not just in how they retold the stories of Candyman, but also how they embellish certain pieces of it to add to the mythos and add to the legend.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting how that incorporated eventually into the twist that Anthony was the baby from the first movie. Was also very well done and very clever, and added this larger mythos and this larger idea. And again, it goes back to the idea of repeating stories and repeating history.
I like how they basically treated the first movie as mythology.
Basically, yeah.
Fueled this movie.
What I dig was that they treated it as mythology by actually getting the first movie wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they retell the story, they omit details of the film.
Well, that's what I mean when I said like embellish certain parts of the story. Yeah.
I dug that.
They also did. They changed the original story of Candyman, which I also found interesting.
Yes,
because in the original he was stung to death by the bees. In the new one, he was stung a bunch, but he was still alive, and they burned him.
And then
to death.
got set on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes to the ideas of legends and mythology, and how all the the basic structure stays the same, but all the details tend to change based on who's telling it, and that's how stories and legends are made.
Yeah.
So
I really appreciated that element, and I realized we hadn't talked about it, so definitely wanted to get a moment in for that. I know we're low on time, so
all right. So otherwise,
you guys have said all the stuff I agree with. So no questions for Black people. The Black delegation rests.
Me adjourned. Anyway,
the non-black person of color rests.
Okay.
And the resident white, what say you?
The whitey will always be confused, but he's accepted it.
The whitey is willing to learn. That's the important part.
I think it's all we got for this one, guys. We're gonna agree.
Okay, so let's say Candyman 5 times, and then turn off the chat and cut off the video right here, so it looked like we all got murdered. I'm just kidding. I'm never doing that, bro. Did you not hear me like 20 minutes ago? I was never do that.
I was like,
you do that. I'm not.
I don't play.
I almost just said nope and hung up.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on now. You knew that was bullshit coming out of my mouth.
I know my luck is bad enough that would just fucking happen.
I mean, I feel like you would do that, and then we would hear tomorrow that you like tripped down your fucking apartment stairs and broke your neck or something, and we'd be like, Candyman. Like it's just
wow. Okay. On that very uncomfortable.
Which is why I don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't play.
So
wait, how many times have we each said the word throughout this review?
Oh shit.
Not many. I know I've said it maybe like twice.
Let's stop it now, just in case.
I'm positive. I'm positive because I'm actively checking. I'm talking and I'm saying it, and I'm like,
just switch to a reverse shot of Ron. He's got like just one of those little like clicker things in his hand, and it's got
All right, I think it's all we got, guys. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.